The other thing I want to show you real quick is a spinnerbait. Everything's muddying up. We're going to Roosevelt next week, and you start fishing muddy water, you see a lot of fishermen throwing double willow leaf blades. Those are really popular here in Arizona, the double willow leaf blade. But the one thing I want to tell you is there's a time and a place for everything. And I think when you get in real muddy water, where you have the rivers running in at the Tonneau or at the salt end of Roosevelt, things like that, when I get in muddy water, I like to go with a Colorado blade. The Colorado blade is awesome. You get maximum vibration out of this blade, maximum flash with willow leaf blades. So when you're fishing muddy water, your fish has the lateral lines, can feel vibration. I like to throw something that's got a little bit more vibration to it. So I'll throw that Colorado spinnerbait, and man, you can feel it throb. When you're reeling it real slow and feeling it come across the water column, you can really feel it throb. And in that muddy water, those fish will feel that vibration and they'll go over and grab it. There's a couple of different ways you can fish this bait too that I really like. And one of them, especially with the Colorado blade, is like, say you're fishing a bluff like towards the dam or something like that. You can let it fall and it just flutters down so nice, just straight down, that blade thumps, and you can yo-yo the bait. So I like throwing it right up against the wall and just letting it fall. And I've done real good even back in the old days when I could fish San Carlos on this bait, because San Carlos would get muddy at times too, and I'd catch a lot of fish on this bait. Couple little tricks to this bait that I don't know if I've showed in a long time on the show that I'll show you. If you're fishing an area, and this works with the double willow leaf as well, if you're fishing an area where you want to kind of have a fast retrieve and you're kind of waking it across the top of the water because they're chasing shad, and you find that your spinnerbait seems to be rolling a little bit, first you want to tune it. You want to make sure that the arm is straight directly over top of the hook, and because a lot of people catch fish on a spinnerbait and then they start throwing it right back out there and it don't work right. So I'm just telling you, you want to make sure that the arm sits right over top of the hook. So if you have to twist it or bend it, bend it. Okay, the other thing is if I want to reel it a little bit faster and keep it from turning, because if the wire it's a clothespin type wire, if the wire is real spread out and wide and you're trying to fast retrieve the reel, what ends up happening is the bait rolls. So if you pinch the wire down just a little bit, you can actually reel it a little bit faster and keep it up on top. Well, there we go. Get the blades turning. That's another thing. Anytime you throw your baits out there, spinner baits, it's always good to make that first initial pop, just to make sure that that blade's gonna turn for you. But see, we can wake it up on top of the water, the bait's not rolling, all that good stuff. Now, if you wanna slow roll it, then you can spread the wire out a little bit and you get a lot more thump, okay? So that you get a lot more vibration, even with the willow leaf blades. So if I'm gonna throw it slow, then I'm gonna go ahead and spread the wire out a little bit, and then I'm just gonna reel it really slow. Now, a lot of folks have seen on the show, and I can't do it in the tank, but I like to put a little grub trailer on the end of my spinner baits. I'll usually cut the tail off here. It's got a long skirt on it. I'll cut the tail a little bit right here on the skirt where it flares a little bit more, and I'll put a grub tail. You can get the Yamamoto grubs or the Squirmin grubs and just put a little, chartreuse or a white grub on the back of it, and it looks like a little fish swimming in the water. And I'll tell you what, that a lot of times is that triggering quality we're looking for in a bait. We attracted the fish with the blades and the vibration. Sometimes that tail wiggling through the water will be that triggering quality. The other thing is a lot of times, if you feel like the bait's just dragging and you don't feel those spinners are thumping, double check, make sure everything's right. But I just like to pop the bait once in a while. Anytime you're fishing open water, especially in Arizona, and we all know what that's like. You got a bunch of open water, say there's no brush in the area, and you're still throwing that spinner bait. You might have caught some fish around brush, but you're covering water, and all of a sudden you're in an area with no brush. Well, what you do is you throw the bait out there, take a couple cranks on it, and just kind of pop it a few times, and then, make the bait flutter a little bit. Make the blade kind of flutter a little bit, and you'll catch a lot more fish with that. But that Colorado blade this time of year, when you're fishing a little bit dirtier or muddier water, give it a try, because that's what it's for. It's for that muddy water, the dingier type water, letting the fish feel the vibration. They'll crush this bait. It's a lot of fun. And I like the shad colors. I like, the white, like everybody else, or the chartreuse patterns, things like that work really well with these baits, and you'll catch a lot of fish. Now, I'll use a medium heavy rod with this, okay? You don't want to use a medium. You don't want to use a light. You want to use a medium heavy rod. 14 to 17 pound test fluorocarbon line is what I like. Works great for me. That medium heavy allows me to get that big spinnerbait hook in, and just, boy, when I get bit, I can really wrench back on them and catch the fish, okay? And if you find you're ever getting short strikes on it, you can always put a trailer hook on it. They make trailer hooks. You can find them. Put yourself a trailer hook on. Anytime you can turn the trailer hook down instead of up, it works good too, all right? So that's something for you to think about on that bait. A lot of fun to throw. My other thing that I really got to show you, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen, this time of year, one of the best baits to throw in the spring is the Wacky Cinco. I'm going to show you the rig. I'm using a medium action spinning outfit. I'm throwing a 12-pound nanofill line. It's white, and it works really well for this rig. Tie the Alberto knot, and then I'm using a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. Okay, fluorocarbon's virtually invisible in the water, and it has less stretch in it. So it works really good. But what I like to do with this bait, and you're going to ask why I like the white line. Even in clear water, I like the white line because that leader has got me covered. But I'll throw it out there, and with this type of bait, if I was to keep my rod and my line tight to feel the bait, to feel the fish hit the bait, then what's the bait going to do? It's going to come. See how I'm trying to keep my line tight? The bait's just trying to come back to me, and it's essentially not falling all that good either. It's just kind of swimming up on top. But the ticket is with that white line, if any of you like bobber fishing, and the kids love bobber fishing, watching that bobber go under, that's fun. This is the same thing. You throw out there, you let the bait fall, you let your line lay right on top of the water. And you can see that white nanofill just sitting right on top of the water. And a lot of times as it's falling, you can see it go tick and start running. And it's a perfect time to start thinking about setting the hook, all right? So what I'll do is if I don't get bit, then what you want to do is sweep the rod tip. You don't want to do this 9 to 12 o'clock and raise it up like that. You want to sweep the rod tip. And what I mean by that is just pull it sideways like this, and always use your, just got bit right there. You still got it. They're biting it pretty good, but you want to just drag it on the bottom. You just want to drag it on the bottom. So if you don't catch the fish on the initial fall, what you want to do, and this is weightless, so it's going to take a second, and you can watch your line slowly go and fall. Once it hits bottom, then you should be able to just go ahead and sweep the rod tip just like what I'm doing, and you always use your rod to feel the lure. Don't point your rod at the lure, and don't use your reel to reel the lure in. What I like to do is I like to throw out there and pull it with the rod tip. So you want to let it fall because you'll feel everything with that rod tip. It's very important. That's why you use the rod. You get good rods so you can feel everything. But you sweep it, you can feel everything on the bottom, and then you pick up the slack with your reel, okay? Bring your rod tip back, and then you let it sit there and you sweep it again really slow. You don't want to do anything fast. You want this thing to look like a crawdad in the water kind of. So you want to just kind of bring it across a little slow. Now, I'm using a 1/0 Wacky style owner hook or a 2/0, depending on the size of the bait I'm using. So if I'm using a 4-inch, probably go with a 1/0. If I'm using the 5 or 6 inch, I'll go with a 2/0. 1/0 still works great, but you're using little hooks basically. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you don't rip their lips off when you get bit. So when you get bit, you're almost doing a pull set. And what I mean by a pull set, instead of wrenching on them like that, you see your line going out, you let your line tighten up, and you just kind of pull set. You know, just kind of give it a pull set and just keep it reeling, and don't let any slack on your line. You'll get that fish to the boat. Those hooks are needle sharp. So you'll have a lot of fun with that. One other thing I want to tell you, a little tip, and this is very important when you're fishing. A lot of times when you throw out there, and let's say you threw out there, your bait falls, and you look around and you're looking at the scenery, whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden your line was there, but now it's way over here. The fish grabbed it and ran, right? Okay, so fish are very competitive. So if there's another fish around it, you know, I got one right there, and I'll tell you what, they'll eat that Cinco. But anyways, fish are very competitive. So what ends up happening is they'll grab the bait, they'll put it in their mouth, and then they'll try to run away from the other fish. they don't want the other fish grabbing it. If you've ever seen fish in a tank, if you got fish at home, one fish gets the bait or the worm or something like that, and the other fish are in there trying to get it out of his mouth, and it's very competitive, very competitive. So what ends up happening is, what I'm getting at is the area that you just threw at, whether it was a stump, a rock, or wherever you were throwing, must have had more fish in it because he was swimming away from the pack, right? To get away from them. If you just get bit and the lure stays there and you feel the thump and really nothing's happening, and there might be swimming just a little bit but not a whole lot, then normally that's probably one fish in the area. But if you throw out there and the bait takes off, a lot of times there's another fish there. So make sure if you catch that fish, throw right back into the same spot again. There might be another fish there for you. So always remember that. Now, a lot of times when you're fishing this bait, you're going to be coming across some rocks, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of twitch the bait over the rock and try to let it sit there. All right, let it fall and just twitch the bait. You want it to look like a crawdad, and you want to work. The slower the bait you work, you got to have patience with this bait, and you're going to catch a lot of fish. It's got a lot of salt in it. They'll hold on to it. You know, I've always said for years, fish don't have hands, that when you feel the bite, set the hook. But when it comes to the wacky Cinco, a lot of times they'll just grab that one end, they'll swim off with it, maybe trying to get away with something else, and then you'll feel it again, and they'll have it. But a lot of times, this time of year, say you're fishing a Texas rig, you know, I would say set the hook, because once the fish engulfs it and you feel that second boom boom, a lot of times that's him spitting it out because they pick it up and spit it out real fast out of the bed. So I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of fun over the years doing the show. I hope you keep watching. We're going to show you a lot more things. I'm going to be over here at the Nitro booth for a while, and don't forget to check out Taipan rods. Brand new rod on the market, made in the USA, and I'll tell you something else. All graphite makes a difference. You got to go check them out. This is awesome, awesome stuff. But I'll be down here if you have any questions. I appreciate you all coming, and I really appreciate you watching the show. We got great ratings on Fox, and we'll try to keep up with all the good work, and I'll try to keep laughing if I don't lose my voice.